What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to Brothers of the Half Circle, and welcome back to Real Talk. We finally had a name for the show. This is a very special episode, as this is our first full movie review. I'm here with Zach, Andy, and Christian, and I'm Sean. It's so great to be with you guys, and we hope that you're enjoying this, whether you're listening to it or you are watching it, and we thank you for joining us for this conversation. As always, we want to give a shout out to Sharpened Iron Studios. Thank you guys for letting us use this space. If you are a content creator who makes videos like this, or maybe you are a business and you're looking to do your next commercial, Sharpened Iron can help you with that. You can rent the equipment, you can rent this space, and they're just a really great people to work with. And so thank you guys once again for letting us use this spot. All right. Well, guys, let's get into the first full review. This is awesome. First movie review. Like, obviously, we've done episodes on DC, we've done episodes on Marvel, we've done episodes on streaming platforms and the writer's strike, and now this is our first full movie review. And you might be asking yourself, what movie are we reviewing today? Well, as you all know, we're in June. We're in the middle of June. June has been, it seems like it's been movie after movie after movie. I mean, literally, I've gone to the movies every week since Fast 10 came out. So I've seen Fast 10. I've seen Guardians. I've seen Little Mermaid. I've seen Transformers. I've seen Across the Spider-Verse. And then next week we'll be going to see The Flash. And then we'll be ending the month off with Indiana Jones. It's been a whirlwind of a time, but
that's a lot of movies.
Dude,
that is a lot of movies.
I'm thankful for a job, and I'm thankful for Movie Pass. So
wait, is Movie Pass back?
Yeah, Movie Pass
is
back.
Did I miss this?
Yes, I think you did.
Wow.
It's a little bit different than last time.
Yeah.
Last time it just failed.
Yeah.
Sorry. But it's super useful, and I like it, so we used it. So the movie that we are going to be reviewing tonight is Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. This is the sequel to 2018 Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, guys. Obviously, this has been a whirlwind of a week. This movie has exceeded all expectations, both, I think, in story and in animation. Money-wise, it's been just killing it. Transformers actually did beat it this past opening weekend. But Spider-Man is locking that number 2 spot. Like, Spider-Man is locked. There ain't nobody passing that. But this movie's been amazing. And so first, as we go into our review, here's how we're gonna do it. We're going to start with our thoughts. Okay. I want to get everybody's thoughts on just how you guys felt about the film, what you thought about it, how you liked it. Then we're literally going to go through the plot from the first credit to the end credit. Okay. Just kind of overview of the movie. And then we're going to end that with our predictions, just kind of where we think, is going to happen as we close out.
That's the fun part.
Yeah, that's the fun part. What's going to happen in Beyond the Spider-Verse and stuff like that. And so I'll just start with you, Zach. Like, tell us your thoughts on the film. What you think of this movie?
In my opinion, best Spider-Man to date.
Wow.
Best Spider-Man to date.
I like that.
Goodness gracious. I had so much fun with this movie. From the artistry to the music to the storytelling, the world building, just the little tiny things, like how each world had different artistry. Even the subtle differences, like Miles' world was more like normal, what we're used to, and then you went to Gwen's world, and you're thinking she looks like a normal character. She isn't like Spider-Man Noir, who's black and white, or Spider-Ham or any of them. But then all the backgrounds are all just different colors. They're always changing with the tone and emotions of the story that's being, and that's just the world.
Yeah.
So I thought just amazing, just great.
That's good. Christian?
Yeah, maybe not number 1 Spider-Man movie, but still one of my, it's definitely in top 3. Yeah. It's up there. The pacing was great. There was never really a slow moment. I will say the songs are good. I do think Into the Spider-Verse handled the music better.
Yeah, you and I had this conversation.
Yeah, we had this conversation. Yeah. And is this the part where I can get into that?
Yeah, if you want to, go for it.
Okay.
Dude. Yeah.
So basically, I feel like Into the Spider-Verse integrated the music with all their scenes. So you go from Sunflower, he's listening to it straight into the background, hypnotize, his uncle is playing it, but then it becomes part of the background.
Right.
What's up, danger? Like
Yeah.
that scene is just not so iconic.
Yeah, I can see it in my head.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And
No,
I
that's
mean,
good.
so
Yeah.
I think Into the Spider-Verse, the music was literally made a lot of the scenes.
To your testament, like, I will say, now that you're saying that, the first movie, I noticed a lot more of the songs when I listened to the album afterwards than this movie. Mm-hmm. Like, I felt like all the album, the Metro Boomin album.
I will say the Metro, like, these songs slap though.
No, I'm not saying that. I'm not saying the
Metro
songs are
Boomin,
bad.
like,
No,
these guys went
they're
off.
great.
Yeah.
Yeah, the album is great.
Yeah.
I just feel like Into the Spider-Verse, the songs were integrated
Well, and
into
the point that the point that Christian and I were making when we were having the conversation was like, Into the Spider-Verse, the music was also a character trait of Miles.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it was a part of exploring and expanding upon this
Of
character
who he was.
of who he was. Yes, and I think for this time and Across the Spider-Verse, it was more like not a so-so soundtrack, like not something that's just pushed off to the side. I actually think Across the Spider-Verse accomplished what a lot of movies in the 80s accomplished, which was having a banger movie and a banger album. Like,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
what this movie did too, was having, the movie was great and the soundtrack was great. It's just that the soundtrack just didn't, there wasn't enough, like, there were no iconic scenes that went with, you know, like,
Yeah,
It was
like
more-
the soundtrack in this movie was more supporting. It was more
Yes.
behind the scenes. Like, it
Yes.
was there. All those songs are there,
Yeah.
but it was more with everything that's going
Yeah.
on instead of like, hey, I hear this song and it's matching what I'm seeing.
yeah. What do you think, Andy?
I thought the movie was a 10 out of 10.
Nice.
I think this is, I don't want to put it at number one. I do, but I don't. I'll say that. Because, I mean, this movie, we said, you know, what if, you know, Marvel did something similar to this, well, then you could, you know, open up a whole new world. The way, I will say, I absolutely loved the way that, like Zach said, how they showed the different universes. Like,
Yeah.
Gwen's was more like watercolor.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Very beautiful.
That's the word.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was thinking, I wanted to say it, but yeah, like Gwen's was very much a watercolor based world, and then Spider-Man India was more. Well, it was. I mean, obviously, it was different. I can't find the word to describe.
No, yeah, I can't think of the art style, but I understand what you're saying.
Yeah,
yes.
it was.
It was very fitting.
Yeah,
Each frame of these movies is a work of art.
absolutely.
Like, or each frame of the movie is a work of art,
And
which is beautiful.
What's cool about that too is, you know, we've heard that any scene that you pause in that movie, any scene that you pause, is perfectly placed to where it could be paused and then put right into a comic book. They
Yeah.
made sure that there was so much detail and so much
I like
time and
that.
effort that was.
Well, that's
Approved
why
by
at the
the
beginning of
comic
the
code.
film, yeah, the certified, you know, comic code at the beginning of the
Yeah.
film.
That's what that was?
Yeah, that's what that is.
That's what that was. So if you were watching it and you paused it, whatever part you're paused on could be like the perfect still for a page in a comic book.
And that's the same with Into the Spider-Verse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What? Okay.
Yeah. So
See,
you could
Are
pause
those
it
the
and
only
just
two
make your own
movies that
handmade
are-
comic.
I think those are the
That's
only two movies
good.
that
That's
get
pretty
that
spectacular.
have gotten that classification and have that ability to be made, essentially. So, yeah, I love the movie. It's not my number one. That's still Spider-Man 2. I don't care what anyone's like that. I know that's saying a lot, but Spider-Man 2 is goated.
Sam Raimi?
Yes, Spider-Man 2
Okay.
is goated. Like,
I know where that's at in my
like
list.
it's
We'll get there.
number one for me. But as far as like Andy was saying, if Marvel had done something like this, you know, we talk about it all the time in our friend group, and if you've been listening to the podcast, you've heard us say it too. Like, a big part of the quote unquote hero fatigue is not superhero fatigue. It's actually story fatigue. And this movie had none of that. Like, this
No.
movie had a great story. It had a great follow up to from where Into the Spider-Verse left us. It like Andy was saying also, because each frame of this film can be paused and placed into a comic book, shows you how hard and how detail oriented every person who worked on this film was. The voice acting is great. Shamik Moore, oh my gosh, I can't think of her name.
Haley
Steinfeld, yeah. Like, she's killing it. Jason Schwartzman as the Spot, like, fantastic guy. Everyone else, who's killing it, obviously Jenk Johnson and Oscar Isaac.
You know who was a surprising? Oscar
Dude,
Isaac. Oh
yeah.
my gosh, he killed that.
He killed it.
They did their research with the movie.
They did.
I mean, the reason why it took so long is because they went back, and if a character during the test screening wasn't hitting, like I think I read Spider-Man India, they had it, and the people they checked it with were like, why is he like that? And so they went back and checked it and got it right.
It's funny you say that, because like right before I walked into this room, I had watched a TikTok where they interviewed him.
Oh, nice.
They interviewed him about, and he talked about that.
Yeah.
They said that they didn't feel like the character was culturally relevant enough. So they pulled him in, and they were like, what do you want to say? What do you want to say? What do you want to do? So yeah, just building on that point.
And then the Lego scene, I don't know if you heard about that.
14-year-old kid.
Oh, what?
There's a 14-year-old kid who was able to animate Legos, and they literally grabbed him.
So how he got the job was
they gave him the job?
Yeah,
That's amazing.
Yeah, so this is how it happened. So he, like, when the first trailer for Across the Spider-Verse came out, he made a Lego version of that trailer.
Yeah.
Well, Sony saw that, and they were like, this is awesome. And I think
he
Lord and
impressed
Miller,
like professional animators in Hollywood.
Yeah, Lord and Miller.
Thought he was
like, I think it was.
He is now.
I think Lord and Miller and Sony reached out to him and were like, "Hey, here's the scene," and he did that whole scene. Like,
that's awesome.
And to your point, Zach, of why the movie, another reason why the movie took so long to come out is obviously when I go through the plot, we'll get to it. But that scene of when Miles is being chased by all these Spider-Men, that took 4 years to animate.
Yes,
like that's why. Like,
but
that's
I'm
why it
glad
took so
they
long.
took the 4 years to do it.
Worth it.
Yeah.
It was
so worth it. And the whole time I'm just like, and we're giving full spoiler.
Yeah, full spoiler. Yeah.
Okay.
There's your spoiler warning.
Yeah.
Official spoiler warning. The whole time that he's running through the 2099 universe, I'm just like, where are you going? Like,
Bro.
You've been in this building. That's it. You've not been outside.
Yeah.
You have no idea where you're going. And I like how they even touched on that. Because they're just like, you don't even know where you're going. He's like, I have a plan.
I have a plan. I just haven't told you yet.
He really did.
Peter B's like, oh, so he does have a plan.
Yeah, I think like this movie, it came out, coming out before The Flash, because Flash is going to be, and I know there's no room to make comparisons. I get that, like, and I'm not trying to make one. I'm just taking the angle of all this multiverse stuff that we've gotten from Multiverse of Madness and No Way Home and now Flash and stuff like that. To me, Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse has nailed it. Mm-hmm. Like, they've nailed what the multiverse, in my opinion, is. Mm-hmm. How it looks, how it connects, how it reacts, and stuff like that. And I really just think that, like, I took me and my dad went last Saturday to see it, and I've never seen this man more hyped about a film. And he hasn't even seen the first one, but he thought this was the coolest movie ever. And to me, that speaks volumes. Like, that's what a movie should do.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And especially, and I think what's cool too is, yes, it's a sequel, but it also is a great standalone film.
It is.
Yeah.
It's a great standalone Spider-Man film, because you could that could have been the first one, and I think you would have been fine.
Yeah.
If that was the first one,
I think you would have been completely fine, like 100%. Yeah, go ahead.
One thing I want to bring to light: Spider-Punk
Dude.
Bro.
Goodness
Oh,
gracious.
man.
Was this
Spider-Punk-
Hobie Brown?
Yeah,
Hobie.
Brown.
Hobie Brown.
Dude, Spider-Punk. Oh my gosh, man. Yeah.
How are you even cooler under the mask?
He's like,
I've always been cool.
He's like, always been this cool.
Dude, just the way he's animated, like he goes from black and white to
Well,
color.
what's cool
to
about
just,
it is because like his whole speech about how like he doesn't like consistency, that's his art style. His
Yeah,
art style
100%.
changes because he doesn't like consistency.
100%, and even the watch that he
that he
gives
makes,
to Gwen.
yeah.
Yeah.
He makes his own watch.
makes his
So
own
that's
watch.
why he was stealing
That's
parts.
why
That
he was
just
stealing
barely
parts.
clicked right now.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's
he
why
was
he
stealing
stole
parts
it.
so he could just, build his own
And,
watch.
And
that's
that's
why
why
he
he-
tells Miles.
Yeah, he's like, make sure you know what you're signing up for before you make any decisions.
Yeah.
Like,
Smart.
And
And
that's why he helps.
does he have electric powers?
no,
Because
I
just how
just-
he was like, okay,
I-
stop using your fingertips, use your whole hands. I was like, how do you know
I
this?
think his whole like, we'll probably recover this in the plot too, but I think we can talk about Hobie now. Like, I think his whole character trait was he was showing Miles that yes, you are Spider-Man. You're a Spider-Man. But don't be tied down to don't be like Miguel. Miguel is tied down based off of a decision that Miguel made.
Yeah.
Which
Yep.
I have my own theories on that we'll get to. And so I think Hobie is really trying to prove to him that like with these powers, with this electric powers, like yeah, like you're able to absorb it in your fingertips, yes, but release it in your palms. Like
use all of what you
lose
have.
all of what you have. Like
I kind of feel like Hobie in this movie is what Peter B was to him in the last movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, I felt that too.
Because
Yeah.
if you think about it, all the other, spider people in the previous movie were like, Miles, you're not ready, you can't do this. And Peter B was advocating for him and, hey,
Yep.
like, let me
Like,
teach
he'll
you
learn,
these.
he'll
He'll
get
learn
there.
this, he'll get
Yeah.
this. And then until finally he was like, look, you got like, it's just a leap of faith. Like you can't do this
Such a
right
good
now.
line,
But it was just one of those of like I get it. You want to do this, but just hold on. And so Peter B was there for him, and then in this movie, Hobie was that guy of okay. He went against the grain.
and I'll
Yeah.
even say that I think Hobie was more in the vein of like encouraging Miles, be your own man. Like
Yeah.
don't let anything that you're about to learn dictate who you are. Like as a Spider-Man, as yourself, as somebody with these powers. Like don't let these people tell you, how you're supposed to be, basically. And which I think is so cool. And I think the cool thing about it too is it's like what we learn about the connected multiverse and like canon events and stuff like that. Again, to me, it's like these are things that I wish would have been explained with time in a multiverse of madness. You know what I mean? Like,
Yep.
I think something like that would have been would have just benefited that film and stuff like that.
I do have. I called it a problem.
Yeah.
When I got out of the movie, I was like, my one problem with this movie is, and now thinking about it more. Okay, see, like you said, canon events.
Yeah.
So, whenever we get to, how do I say? Okay, so
I think
they're
I know
riding
I think I know where you're
the
going with this.
they're riding the escalator
Yeah.
train thing up into the sky.
Up in the sky, yeah.
And Miguel's just on top of him. They're fighting, and he's like, "You weren't even supposed to be a Spider-Man."
Yeah.
But like in that, with him being the only Miles in like the whole Spider
Yeah.
group,
yeah.
him being the only Miles, and then Miguel being like, "You weren't even supposed to be a Spider-Man. This is all a freak accident,"
Yeah.
and blah blah blah. I'm just like, did he just like unvalidate all the other Miles, like comic Miles, video game Miles, and
And the cartoon.
Ultimate Spider-Man Miles. Like, so that was my problem. Because I was like, okay, so now where does this fit in the canon?
Right.
Because if this Miles is canon and I'm understanding that correctly, then he just said that the others aren't canon. But
I was gonna say, let's hold that thought. Let's get to that point in the plot because I think we can expand upon that. So the movie starts off, or start to finish right now. So the movie starts off with Gwen. She's playing the drums. Great opening. Another part of the soundtrack that's great is good. The soundtrack is great, but the score for the movie is fantastic.
Absolutely.
Like the music is awesome. So Gwen has this awesome epic drum solo. She gives a great recap of the events of the first movie, and then we get to see her world, and we get to see this really cool watercolor detail. We get to see what happened to her Peter and how he became the lizard and stuff like that. And then we get the first little bit of kind of conflict that she's dealing with of kind of feeling alone and stuff like that. Obviously, she's lost her best friend. She hasn't really made any friends since she lost her best friend. Obviously, she made a friend in Miles. Her dad, Captain Stacy, everybody knows him. He's obviously on the journey of I'm gonna find the killer of Peter Parker. He was my daughter's best friend, and I think Spider-Woman is the one who killed him. They have this really cool heart-to-heart moment. Then we go into our first fight sequence against Vulture, which is pretty cool. We get to see a Vulture from this Shakespearean
Renaissance
paper mache.
Which is really cool. I thought what I loved about that whole sequence was I thought Haley Steinfeld did a great job with her quips and the funny Spider-Man stuff that Spider-Man do, when they're talking and fighting. I thought she did a fantastic job, about her saying you probably shouldn't use fire, dude. You got a paper.
I love how they during those fights they described, the essentially what the tune, hammer space.
Yeah, hammer space.
In which, so there's
they're really quick. If you're not it's not anything against you if you didn't move your eyes over to the screen and read it. But
so,
like a comic book, go ahead.
Yeah, so whenever Miguel says, he's got hammer space,
okay.
There's a text that explains what hammer space is, and basically, so when he's talking about hammer space, it's basically the text reads he's got an unlimited storage of whatever he has.
So remember how Spider-Man, he was able to.
The infinite backpack that Deadpool has.
Every video game.
Yeah, every video game.
Yeah.
Or
every cartoon character.
Miguel has that?
No.
Vulture had it. So whenever Miguel attacked him and cut off his wing, and then he instantly grew it back.
Yeah.
He was like, he's got hammer space. That's
got
what he
And then he throws up all of his, he throws all of his bombs, and he starts using a bunch of weapons. Yeah, it's got an infinite
I didn't
storage.
even notice that.
Yeah.
See, that's one reason why I want to go back and watch this movie because there's so much I probably missed.
Where it has context of it's something that Spider-Punk says.
He says, "I'm not Scooby-Dooing."
Something about Scooby-Dooing, and then there's a context of what that means as a slang word.
What?
Yeah,
it's really cool. It's really
cool.
Yeah, so they're fighting Vulture. Vulture's about to what it seems like it's about to kill Spider-Gwen. Obviously, a portal opens up, then comes flying in Spider-Man 2099
like a boss.
And also, again, the score for this movie is dope because the theme for Spider-Man 2099 is nuts. It's literal nuts. And so he busts through. He basically tells Gwen to stay out of the way. He's gonna handle it and stuff like that. But Gwen's okay,
no.
whatever. I'm gonna handle this anyway. Vulture starts attacking the both of them, and then Miguel goes on this huge rant about how Vulture being here is a result of Kingpin's collider on Miles' Earth and the stuff that Gwen did. And he even says, "Don't get me started on that Doctor Strange and the little nerd on Earth won a bunch of nines."
199999. Yeah. It's 5 nines after that.
Which they didn't get approval from Marvel to do.
Did they not?
No, that was
that was a problem?
I don't know if it'll be a problem.
I know that. Are you sure? Because I read that Phil Lord and Chris Miller, they Kevin Feige had was a great consulting hand on this film.
From what I heard, when that specific line they didn't ask to put in. Like, they didn't ask anyone if they could put in. They just said, we're putting it in.
I kind of wondered why I never saw.
And that's why it's Earth 1999 instead of Earth 616 that the MCU calls it, which is technically wrong. But
there's actually only one person in the entire MCU who calls it that, and that's Christine on that one Earth. But that's
Earth
her classification.
Well, so far, I mean, I think they've actually came out, and from what I've read, that's what they're now officially calling it.
Even the girl who plays Kamala Khan was like, "Hold up!"
But I think they're trying to now classify the MCU as Earth 616, from what I've read.
I've heard that before.
But but originally it was classified as Earth 1999, and that's why Miguel said that, is like, oh hey, that's the Earth, and essentially they didn't get permission to throw that out there.
That's cool though.
Too late now.
I think in the long run, like,
it's do it and ask for forgiveness later.
I think it makes sense. Well, I just think it makes sense, and just like I think that Christine has her own classification. Like, I think you could go along with saying Christine has her numbers, because I honestly think it's in the order of which people have discovered other Earths. So if she's discovered 615 Earths, and then all of a sudden she found Earth 616, it's like, okay, this is Earth 616. Mm-hmm. But Miguel's been doing it on Spider-Man level, which is another thing to think about, and been like, well, this is his designation and stuff like that.
When you see Miguel the first time in the post-credit scene of Into the Spider-Verse, he's a lot thinner, his suit's different, and then there's obviously, the years between the two movies. You could say, he was building the whole Spider Society.
Oh yeah,
because he's much bigger, he's more stocky, and he looks like he's.
I would imagine.
I think for story purposes, you could say that, and I think on an artist level, they just drew him that way.
Well, to his point, I said this while watching it, that Miles is bigger too. Like, his frame is just.
Well, and he points that out too, because it's like the second movie takes place like a year, almost a year and a half.
Yeah,
he says like a year and 4 months. So it's about a year and a half.
His whole lot of web slinging.
And he even says that he's like, I grew, like he had a growth spurt.
It's just puberty.
So they're fighting Vulture, all that stuff, kicking butt.
The first movie, that line.
And then Miguel gets knocked out. Miguel contacts his AI person, Lila. She's really cool. Mm-hmm. He tells Lila to call for backup. And then comes in another Spider person. This is Spider Woman, another take on Spider Woman, Jessica Drew. Mm-hmm. Really cool black chick on a motorcycle with an afro, and she's pregnant and she's kicking butt.
Shoots webs from
her fingertips.
That's pretty cool.
That was pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
So they're all three of them there: Spider Gwen, Spider Woman, Miguel. They're fighting Vulture, trying to take him down. All this good stuff. They end up defeating him, finally knocking him out. But then in amongst the rubble, Captain Stacy confronts Gwen, and is like, you have the right to remain silent. Hands up, you're under arrest for the murder of Peter Parker. And Spider Gwen eventually takes off her mask, revealing to be Gwen Stacy, and her dad is just completely distraught. Like, how long have you been lying to me?
You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you.
So nuts. Like, I thought he was gonna be like, go, like, just silently, like, in disappointment or shock or whatever, just go, and he doesn't.
And what's cool with that scene, what's really cool about that is, again, when they're showing like Spider-Gwen's Earth, and like we said, the watercolor, you can see in that scene that her, like, the color grading that's on her father is very split.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of just showing like the cop side of him and the dad side of him.
I didn't even notice that.
Yeah. If you watch it, if you watch
it
again,
he doesn't know what to do.
And then when he finally says, like, you have the right to remain silent, the color shifts to like one solid color, showing that, like, he's choosing his cop side over his dad's side.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to watch this movie again.
Yeah. It's really cool. It's really cool scene. And so obviously Jess has been talking to Miguel about bringing Gwen with them anyway. Miguel reluctantly hands her a watch, and she goes off. Then we switch to Earth. What Earth is on, Miles? He's on
1610.
Yeah, 1610. We're on Earth, back on Earth 1610, which we're all comfortable with. Like, instantly, my favorite part of this movie is, like, the moment that like the Gwen scene ends and then like this epic hip hop music starts, like coming in, I'm just like, bro,
we know,
we here, like
we know,
like we already here.
We're home.
Even in the we're home. Even in the Spider-Man PS2 like 2 gameplay trailer, like when it switches from Miles to Peter and like the music changes to the, I'm like, bro, like this, I'm sold. Like this is awesome. So we're back on Earth 1610. We get a really cool update from Miles Morales, how he's been, you know, Spider-Man for about a year and a half. He's grown. He's made a couple of mistakes and, you know, has supporting baby powder that didn't work and his mustache grew in. He also said he made a mistake.
I apologized.
He's
made a mistake.
Yeah, it's really funny. Really funny delivery sequence, but really reminiscent of, like, obviously what we got with the introductions of, like, the previous Spider-Man in the first movie, which I love the fact that Gwen cuts off Miguel from giving his backstory whenever they're meeting, you know, which is so funny. It's hilarious. Anyway, so Miles is, you know, out. He's been saving the world. He talks about how he misses his friends and stuff like that. So obviously he's feeling a bit of loneliness. His parents are in the process of meeting at his school. For like a parent-teacher conference type of thing, talking about Miles' future. He's running late. So,
college planning.
Yeah, college planning. He's running late, so mom or dad is texting him. And then we are introduced to our villain of the week. I will call him that right now. I like
it.
So we're introduced to our villain of the week. You sound just like the Spot.
I know. That's what I was going for.
You sound just like Jason Schwartzman.
I am your nemesis.
So we're introduced. Like, this is what's so cool. And if I'm correct, will someone look this up? Does Jason Schwartzman also voice Sonic?
Ooh.
Or is that somebody else?
Let's see.
I can't remember.
While I'm looking this up, I also want to point out I really liked how they really took the time to talk about how goodness gracious, two things at once.
Yeah, it's
Can't
him.
do it.
It's him. So
how they took the time to show how much Gwen missed Miles, and how much equally Miles missed Gwen.
Yeah,
but I'd say Gwen was really feeling that a lot more than Miles was.
Yeah,
because she felt so alone.
Yeah.
Well,
she was also returning to an Earth where she lost her best friend.
Yeah,
having to leave an Earth where she just made a new best friend, and realizing that they're separated by portals, basically. So yeah, we're introduced to the Spot. He's trying to rob a bodega, trying to take an ATM machine, which is a hilarious sequence.
First, he was just trying to take money
He was just trying to take the money.
It was so simple.
And then he was trying to take the whole thing.
I just love that whole sequence, especially like whenever he like opens the Spot and like half the machine is like in the hole in the street, and that dude's like, "Hey, who left that ATM?" Like, it's a normal thing. Like, the dude's like, "Who?" Which is so. This is why I love Lord and Miller, because if you love the Lego movies, that's the humor that they have. It's not even so much the dialogue that the characters are giving.
It's the background.
It's the background people. Like, it's so.
And then the whole time, Miles is just cooking food.
Yeah, he's making.
He's just in there while that's all back
he's
there.
warming up a burrito in the microwave.
And he's just eating, and he's like, "Why do they call it an ATM machine? The M literally stands for machine."
Yeah,
and he's just
smart.
He's just eating a burrito,
which is which comes back at him later on.
That's true.
Does it?
That's true.
Oh, yeah.
And whenever he gets to India.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
So the Spot is like, okay, this is the big deal. Like, Spider-Man's here. He tries to give Spider-Man his origin. Miles isn't having it. They go into this hilarious fight, which probably has this is probably my favorite scene in the movie. I don't know why, but it's like when they are fighting and they go through the car wash and the bubbles, and they end up in the cafe, and that little boy with the Spider-Man mask like takes it off. He's like, I don't think I want to wear this costume anymore. Like,
because one has the Peter mask and the other one has the Miles, and he just pulls the Miles.
He's just like,
I don't think I want to wear this costume.
Which is crazy because where they landed up in, we heard about it pretty much in the first movie, like right at the beginning. It was that new coffee shop called Phone Party.
Yeah.
Yep. I didn't even make that connection. Goodness gracious.
They worked on this. So ultimately Miles takes a page from Tom Holland and defeats the Spot with a really cool the the same way that Tom Holland defeated Doctor Strange, just by plugging a bunch of holes and webbing him up. Tells him tells him not to leave. Then Miles swings off. Don't escape. Miles swings off, makes it back to the parent-teacher conference. We get to learn a little bit about
enters with a little quip.
He's like, unless you make 2 cakes, like, hey, you get to learn. Unless you get to learn a little bit about Miles, like where he wants to go. He wants to go to Princeton. Wants to go to New Jersey and
his
get
day-to-day
into
life.
He wants to get into like quantum physics and stuff like that. Obviously, it's all centered around wanting to discover new worlds. Obviously, his heart behind it is wanting to get back to his friends.
More specifically.
I also just love, like, they do the thing where they're like, yeah, this is Miles Morales, but this is still Spider-Man. Like, Spider-Man's big conflict in every movie is balancing his regular life with his
hero life. And so they're going through that. It's a really hilarious scene. He's, passing all of these other classes, making a really low grade in Spanish because he's missed 5 classes, actually 6 classes. But then he also notices outside the window that the Spot has escaped.
And has an ATM.
And has the ATM machine. So he has to jet out, leaves. His dad also leaves. And then so we go into a sequence where like Miles and his dad are fighting against the Spot. And then we finally get more of the Spot's backstory. The Spot turns out to be the bagel guy from the first movie that got hit with the bagel. Again, with the bagel, which is another, like, that's such a Lord and Miller thing. Like,
you can go back to the first movie and literally see the guy who gets hit with the bagel. You can be like, oh, that's the Spot.
Because when Miles
this wasn't made up. Like,
when Miles throws it, you see the little text bagel as he gets hit in the head.
And then you also learn about the spider.
Yeah, you learn about the spider that the Spot goes on this huge kind of like monologue about how, I created you, you created me. I was there at the collider whenever it exploded. I'm the one who brought the spider over that gave you the powers to be Spider-Man. You were there when the collider exploded. I was there. It changed my skin to this, and now I have all these holes. And the thing that I think that I really started to love about the Spot is his, I don't know if anyone caught this, his powers are also affected by his emotions because the anger he got, the darker that you started to see kind of like a Super Saiyan 2 type of thing, where he's but
his
then
voice even changes.
Yeah, his voice changes, and then he starts charging at Miles and his dad, but then he trips and kicks his own butt into himself. And then Miles and his dad get to have this really cool kind of heart-to-heart with him as Spider-Man, though. Just kind of talking about like Miles' life and what he thinks of his son.
I just like how he takes the moment while he's wearing the mask just to be like, well, maybe you should get off his back.
Dude, it's like, maybe you got off the kid's ass.
Just let him fly.
You gotta fly.
That's total cheat codes,
dude.
Total cheat codes.
Yeah. So that's a really kind of cool heart-to-heart scene there.
We're supposed to catch the criminals.
I always do.
Sometimes. Yeah. It's like so like such a Spider-Man thing, such a Spider-Man thing. From there, we see where the Spot went. He's basically in himself in the whatever you want, a temporal wherever.
Whatever.
Hyperbolic spot chamber.
Yeah, hyperbolic spot chamber. That's what we're going to call it. For the duration until Beyond the Spider-Verse comes out, we are calling it the hyperbolic spot chamber.
I like it.
And so he's in there. He gets the idea to explore where his holes go. He sticks his head through one, and it takes him to like this 1940s like
cartoon.
Yeah, which is really funny. He instantly pops out of that, goes into another one. It's the Lego Spider-Man world. He causes a car accident, which is hilarious. Comes out of that one. Then he actually goes into the Venom world.
Which we now know is Earth 688.
Yeah. Yep. Goes into the Venom world, sees Mrs. Chin. Like, she's not fazed by it at all.
At all.
But, I mean, with what she's seen.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, the Spot says that. He's like, it's like, to you, this is just another Tuesday.
Like,
you're not fazed by this at all, are you?
One cool Easter egg is pretty much on every universe, the same person is Jonah Jameson.
That's true.
Yeah.
Dude,
J.K. Simmons will forever be...
that's something that can never change. Like, he'll always be J. Jonah Jameson.
Yeah.
He has to be.
So the Spot figures out that what he needs more power. So he celebrates the fact that he's kind of learned this thing, and this is what I loved about him was like this is what makes him, and now I'm switching from calling him villain of the week to now villain.
The villain.
This is what makes him such a pivotal villain, is because he has a reason for what he's doing.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's to get back at Spider-Man, and that's it. Like it's not a world-ending thing, which I mean potentially it is. I mean, I think we'll come to find that out, but I just love how focused he is.
He just wants to prove he's Miles' nemesis.
Yes, like that's all he wants.
Well, and he also just wants that like real acknowledgement of, you did this to me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And now, like, you ruined my life, so now I'm going to ruin yours.
You know what it was very reminiscent of to me? It was very reminiscent of, and this is, I mean, I'll make this prediction later on, but it was very reminiscent to me of Amazing Spider-Man 2 and between Max Dillon and Spider-Man. Like how Electro, kind of the same thing, just wanted to be validated as, like, I'm a real dude. Like I got the power, that type of thing. So Miles is running late. He has to pick up the 2 cakes and stuff like that.
Reverse Flash.
Yes, basically, essentially.
Yeah.
And the art style for him is great. You can still see kind of like the drawn lines of how he's drawn stuff. So cool. Miles is late to his dad's party because his dad is becoming a captain. He gets there, gets into an argument with his parents
because of the messed up cakes.
Yeah, because of messed up cakes, and because he's just coming and going. He's
Very late.
Late. All this stuff. They end up grounding him. He goes to his room, and then
2 months.
2 months. Yeah.
All right, you got 3 months.
Then a portal opens up. Gwen shows up. She's excited to see him. Miles is obviously like kind of confused why she's here, but also really excited to see her.
Yes.
Then they go on this really cool like swinging montage, like
And I just loved how he just was listening to the music. He closes his eyes.
Yeah.
He has no idea any of this is going on, and the music starts flowing.
Yeah.
So I'm just thinking, oh, this is just how he's feeling.
Yeah.
With the music. I'm not thinking
yeah.
a portal just opened up above his head and everything's floating because of that. Like, no.
Grounded? Is Spider-Man grounded?
I mean, if I came from another universe.
You're like, come on, man. Like, they go on.
Let me come back in a month.
They go on a swinging thing. Gwen disappears for like a split second, while they're swinging. And then, obviously, she's leaving a kind of a little
Spider-Bot for the real reason she's there.
To real reason why she's really there, spying on the Spot. And so then we kind of get like some really cool just dialogue between the two of them, just like talking about like how they, they wish that they could tell people about their lives and how they're how they are as Spider-Man and stuff like that. And Gwen Stacy makes the point to say like how like in every other universe Gwen Stacy falls to Spider-Man, and in every other universe it goes bad. And Miles is the first one to say like, well, maybe there's a first time for everything. Like and it's just really like, sweet just sweet dialogue between these two characters, and you feel the emotion that they have for each other. Like, it's great. Go back to the party. Gwen and Miles are talking on the water tower. Then it's interrupted by Rio and Jeff, which is hilarious.
Call them by their first name.
I also like every time that Hobby's brought up.
Oh yeah, Hobie. Yeah.
Every time Hobie's brought up.
Yeah.
Miles just like, wait, who is this?
Yeah, who's Hobie? Like,
he gets all jealous.
Like,
I'm just like, I like this.
Like, Hobie this. Like, Hobie, what's going? Like, what's this? Like, then like, Gwen gets an alert on her watch. Something has happened. She's got to go. Miles just gets instantly sad because she has to go. Then he has this really cool heart-to-heart with his mom, and his mom, pretty much just tells him like, go after her, but as long as you
go, I get your growing up.
Yeah, like just remember, come back. Just remember who you are. Like, remember who you are, and
bring a
like
cake.
that. Bring a cake.
Which, I mean, we now know his official age is 15.
Yeah.
So I was like,
so he was in middle school in the last movie. Like, he's a little baby.
And so it's just a really cool, sweet thing. Miles suits up, swings after Gwen, finds out that Gwen is actually there to investigate the Spot. The Spot has in a really cool kind of Batman Arkham tech, they recreate the crime scene of what happened.
Yeah.
So cool.
Turns out the
Oh, yeah.
Spot has made a mini collider in his apartment, and is now using it to travel to different worlds.
I was so surprised that Gwen's tech didn't detect Miles while he was invisible in the room.
I was also more surprised that her tech didn't go off the moment that the Spot turned on his machine.
Yeah.
That's true.
Like some sort of
Yeah.
alert.
Like that camera's watching that whole thing.
Yeah.
So like I just figured that it would have alerted, been like, oh shoot, like time to go. And there's a couple of things those would kind of be some of my cons. Like there were a couple of things that happened that I was just like, I don't necessarily know that this would, happen this way or whatever. But so Miles follows her. He's invisible, obviously. And then Gwen gets alerted by Jess, like, hey, what are you doing? And Jess is mad because she went to see Miles. And
Gwen's like, you've never made a mistake.
And Jess is like, yes, I have, but I got, over it, all that stuff. And it turns out that...
Because she feels like responsible for Gwen because she stuck her neck out for her.
Yeah. And it turns out that, the Spot is actually going around getting stronger so he can defeat Miles and stuff like that. Miles deducts that pretty quickly.
They find out their next target,
Yep.
their next universe, and so Gwen goes and she's like, bye, Miles. And
To
Miles
the air.
to the air.
Yeah.
And then Miles is invisible, looking right at her, and he decides, you know what, I'm gonna go.
I'm gonna go after her.
Yeah.
He jumps through the portal. We go to our next Earth, the Earth of Mumbattan, which is the Earth of Spider-Man India, which is so super cool, cool. We get there, we now are in the phase where the Spot has kind of learned a little bit more control over his powers. Turns out that he's looking for the Earths that have Alchemex, so he can turn on the collider and suck up its energy and create portals. Miles shows up. Gwen's like, what are you doing? Why are you following me? All that stuff. He's like, I didn't follow you. I just happened to go the same place you were going. I didn't tell you.
They give him a day little thing so he doesn't glitch.
Yeah.
That's
Oh,
true.
yes.
But he doesn't get that to the Spider Society.
I was like, are we already there?
We're still in India right now.
In India.
So they, they're trying to stop.
Glitch very often then after
He did
that.
not. He glitched once.
Yeah, he did glitch once. That was it.
He glitched once. So he's fighting. They confront the Spot. The Spot makes it to Alchemex. He puts up a shield.
With Spider-Man India, we never really said that he came in.
Oh,
But I really liked how Spider-Man India in the comics was basically just a normal Spider-Man suit with like the white Aladdin pants. So how they really modernized and flushed out that character.
And I love that they took the time to make him a part of that world. Like they built that was Zach and I were talking about how like the reason that Miles is so, I think, as such a hit is because he's not a Black Peter Parker. He's Miles Morales. Like he's Spider-Man India is not an Indian Peter Parker. He's just this, like, he's like his own character, his own person.
He's a totally different person.
Yeah.
With a totally different ethnicity.
Yes.
Yeah. With a totally different everything, but it fits
so well. Yeah. Yes, it fits so well. So Spider-Man India, he gets introduced. He's saving them. He gets onto Miles for talking about how Miles likes chai tea, and he's like, "What, chai tea? Chai means tea."
Chai means
So
tea. You're literally saying tea.
Like, do you want some coffee?
You want some coffee with cream?
Yeah, like
which
so
is
hilarious.
reminiscent of ATM machine.
Like it's so freaking hilarious.
Just the way he delivers sentences.
Machine.
Oh, I love it. I love it, and
Like, it's
just his demeanor.
So funny. Like,
And then later on, the Spot says chai tea, and it's just like you could tell like he's like,
Yes, he's like, no.
And I think in a lot of ways, what I love about this sequence too is you're seeing, you're seeing three Spider-Man work together. You're seeing just how individual characters they are with the same powers and stuff like that. It's just it's really cool to watch.
And then Spider-Man India could tell the tension.
Oh, yeah, he was like,
yes. He's like, there's a love thing going on
There's
here.
something going
There's
here.
something
Like, this is
here.
awesome.
They're like, no.
and he's like, the tension is so crazy.
Did you tell him about Hobie?
Oh,
Yes.
yeah. It's like he did not know about Hobie. Like,
Dude, one of my favorite lines that the mom says is she's like, she's old enough to buy a car, or
oh,
like
yeah.
something like
Oh,
that.
she's old enough to vote.
Yeah.
She's old enough to vote, and because
Bet she doesn't speak
Miles
Spanish.
is actually younger than Gwen.
Yeah.
Like,
But not by much.
But not by
Not
much. I think it's
much.
only like a year.
it's like
I think
because
like a
you
year
got to
or
think
two.
about it.
Because they go to the same school. Like they
Yeah.
technically
Sure.
they both go to
They both go
Yeah.
to
Brooklyn
school,
Visions.
So yeah.
But like in the thinking about it, I guess a little deeper, it's just like her and Peter were a thing at
That's
one
true.
point, and Peter is older than Miles, so you have that gap there. But then we're talking about universes
Oh,
and
whatever.
times.
Yeah,
and
we're
that.
talking about different universes.
Anyway, so they make it to Alchemex. The Spot is turning on the collider. He puts up a shield to keep the 3 Spider-Men out. Miles is trying. He tells him to stand back. I've been working on something new with his Venom strike. He's charging up. Obviously, he's absorbing all the energy. He wants to disperse it out.
And they're like, "What are you doing? Is this gonna take long?" And he's like, "Just
give me
bake.
time.
Give
I
me
got
time.
it.
Like,
Time."
stop."
And then running in like with all his punk rock goodness, Hobie Brown, Spider-Punk breaks through the force field, helps out and everything like
And
that.
then tells Miles, "Hey, use your palms."
Yeah,
palms.
tells him
Yep.
to use his whole palms and stuff like that. Again, another addition to the team. Such a great Spider-Man. Spider-Punk,
yeah.
like we already talked about him a little bit. Obviously, they are too late to stop the Spot, though. He absorbs the collider and becomes basically, I would say, Frieza second form. I don't know. I don't think he's in his final form yet. He's Frieza's second form.
We also get more, like jealousy from Spider-Man,
Yeah.
from Miles.
From
Because
Miles, yeah.
then Hobie's like, "Hey, you left your jumper," which he's like,
like,
"What's a jumper?"
It's a
It's a
jumper.
sweater.
It's a sweater.
And
your
then,
toothbrush.
how many sweaters do you have? And then your toothbrush. Wait, what? Toothbrush?
which I think the thing of like exploring that, like the Hobie like Gwen thing is, I think it's more of Hobie it's not a love thing. It's more of like, I think Hobie was also very much liberating for Gwen in the sense of like, yes, it's cool that we're part of a spider society,
Yeah.
but you need to think for yourself. You need to do your own thing. Like, you need to, not everything that Miguel or Jess say is how it should be, basically.
Well, and you can see a lot more in this movie that Gwen is like, she's a lot more angry. Like, she is a lot more resentful, pulling away from things. So her and Hobie becoming good friends
Makes sense.
makes sense.
Well, 'cause-
They're also musical,
Yeah.
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 Yeah, he plays guitar, she plays drums.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
there's no telling me how many jam sessions that, they've had.
Right,
So
yeah, he's
so
like, I'm looking out for my
Exactly,
drummer.
yeah.
yeah. Which
And
I think is cool.
They even make a nod to that, like the start of the movie, whenever she comes through in his room, and he's like, "Wow, your hair is," and she has like the undercut
Yeah.
now. It's
Yeah.
longer. There's more pink in it.
Yeah, it's like
there, yeah.
she's on a punk rock like type of
Yeah.
thing. Like,
Yes.
and so they can't stop the Spot. The Spot, says, see you back home, Spider-Man. But he also has this weird like moment where he
He gives him that vision.
He gives him a vision of like the future and stuff like that.
Oh my god.
Yeah, I know, crazy.
which beautifully set out. It didn't make sense in that scene. I'm not going to go too much detail yet, but how they showed Spider-Man India's world kind of like mixed up with Miles's
Yeah.
world all in one vision.
Yeah.
And they make sense of that later.
That was cool. And so Alchemex is blowing up. The building is cut in half, starting to crash. Then we get probably one of the coolest sequence ever, which I think is a testament to who and what it means to be Spider-Man. The 4 Spider-Men, spring into action. Miles is like, you guys, or he's like, we'll clear the path. You guys slow down the building.
Oh, so
You know,
cool.
Shows why like Miles is such a good Spider-Man.
Yeah.
'Cause he just takes the lead. He's
Yeah,
like,
he
"You
was
do
like,
this,
"We're doing
you do
this."
this," and
Yeah.
Like, it's such a super dope sequence. They're, saving people, getting them out of the way. Anyway, Spider-Man India's girlfriend is about to be killed. She's on a bus. It's about to fall off a cliff, but at the same time, there's a little girl that needs to be saved, and her father, the captain, is about to get killed. While Miles, without thinking, like a Spider-Man does, springs into action. I mean, you're a hero. That's what you're gonna do.
And Gwen is like holding
Yes.
him.
And we get our first sort of reference to what is considered a canon event. So, Lila chimes in to Gwen and says, hey, be careful, like a canon event is coming up. Make sure you don't disrupt it. And Gwen's like, okay, cool, got it.
And at the time, we don't know what that is.
Yeah, we don't know what that is. Like, it's a great little like delivery, I think. So we don't know what that is.
Foreshadowing.
Miles jumps down, saves the captain, saves the little girl.
Thread the needle.
Needle, bro. Like, he jumps in.
He did it epically.
Yes, he did.
Oh, yeah.
Springs into action, saves them. Everyone's happy. Like, everyone's cheering for him. Hobie's pumped up because it was a cool thing that he did.
You got
like,
that. Almost kind of like the first Avengers where they were all in that circle. You get that with the 4 Spider-Man.
Yeah, like, this is like everyone is excited and celebrating it. But then the rest of the Spider Society people show up. There's obviously a giant black hole that is still disrupting Spider-Man India's world and stuff like that, and it is looking bleak. Jess shows up, says that Miguel wants to meet with them, all of them, including Miles. So they go.
Hobie's like, we don't follow that. Like, we're not going to go.
We're not going to go. And
Miles is just like, I'm going.
I'm going anywhere. Like, I'm going.
The black hole shows up like immediately after Miles saves the captain, because that was a direct. Like, he saved the captain, which caused this, and then Spider Society came and did that.
I have a theory on those, because there's, and we're about to get to it in a second. So they go to Spider Society, which is in Nueva York, Earth. What's his Earth? I think it's.
I think it was like 926 or something.
Yeah, something like that. So
this is amazing.
Yeah, like
this is the lobby.
They're like, welcome to Spider Society. Like, we're seeing all these different Spider-Man we're going through. It's Easter egg after Easter egg. We've got Insomniac Spider-Man. We've got Donald Glover as the live-action Prowler, which is
nuts.
Mind blowing.
And he talks to Miles.
He talks to Miles.
Like, that meant so much more than people actually understand,
because it's again, I know that it may seem like that one line that they mentioned earlier was a direct throwaway, or that they weren't allowed to do it, but having him in there as the Prowler is, I think, a reinforcement of there's more than meets the eye, to reference Transformers when it comes to this. Like,
well, I've heard that they do want a live action Miles at some point.
They do. Yeah, they do.
Now, I don't think it will be Donald Glover.
No, it won't be. It won't be.
It's definitely
but
Prowler.
Shamik Moore is like,
he said he's
like, I'm losing weight and I'm gonna start working out because I'm gonna.
He wants to do it.
He wants to do it.
I mean, I've talked to Sean about that, which, I mean, I want to finish this part and I'll get into it later. But yeah.
Do you think that it would require a younger actor than Shamik Moore?
No.
I don't think you should go.
I guess we're going there.
I don't think you go the age that he is. I think you age him up.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah. That's what I was gonna say with what Sean and I were talking about. I say you keep the voice actors. I mean, because all of them pretty much look like the characters they're voicing.
Because like on Hobie, like the way that they drew Hobie's face, you can see a good chunk of Daniel Kaluuya in there. Like, there's like it's a great drawing.
So,
which I was actually like really surprised when I found out he was the voice actor for
The
him.
thing is, it can't be part of the MCU unless it's a different Earth, because a few of those characters are already in the MCU.
Yeah.
True.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
But yeah,
so it would have to stay as Sony.
You age up Miles and then have the voice actor. I mean, his name is
Shamik Moore.
Shamik Moore. You have him play a live action Miles Morales with Tom Holland's Spider-Man. That's how you do it. You just put him in there, which there's a theory about the third one, but I'll say that for later.
Yeah.
If they do it through the MCU, I think they're going to direct cut from the comics, like the original comic origin, and they're going to kill Tom. They're going to kill Tom and bring in the new Miles.
I couldn't see two things. Sony wouldn't let that happen, because I don't think Sony would want to let go of their flagship Spider-Man. Like, regardless of what people think, that, like, yes, Peter Parker is Sony's flagship Spider-Man. No, Peter Parker is the MCU Spider-Man now because of Tom.
Yeah.
Like, and he just reinforced validity to Andrew and Toby.
Yeah.
The flagship Spider-Man for Sony is Miles Morales.
I can see
And
that.
I can't see Sony willing to part ways with Miles to have him join up with. Now, I could see a Secret Wars, kind of crossover for the first time, of like where you have Tom and you have Miles, that sort of thing. Anyway, so they're in Spider Society. they are going to meet Miguel. Hobie has this really cool like side dialogue, where he's like stealing all this tech and stuff and talking to Miles about like, like why do you want to watch? Why do you want to be here? All this stuff. And Miles is just like,
I want to see my friends.
Yeah, I want to see my friends. Like this is cool. Like I want to
build your own watch.
Yeah,
yes.
Like, build your own watch. Build your own watch. Come in and out as you please. Like being a Spider-Man gives you you have a free ticket to do whatever you want. Like you don't have to, And he leaves him with a final note of like just. Like before you make any decisions, just know what you're signing up for.
Before you enlist, know what you're getting into.
Yeah. And so they run into Miguel. Miguel's got his stoic Batman type thing going on.
He's
and Oscar Isaac said that like that's what he wanted to bring to the character was this kind of like stoic like Batman-esque type of thing to him, which you can see it. Which is also interesting too because you also see there are moments where Miguel is quippish though. Like he has quips. Like whenever he was fighting against Vulture, and he's about to do his like vampire bite thing, and the police officer dude is like, stop what you're doing, and he's like, but I'm the good guy, and
you don't look like a good guy,
like stuff like that, or like. Whenever Gwen is like, "Oh, is that a watch?" and he's like, "It's much cooler than a watch." Like, so he has quips. He has a heart under there. Anyway, he tells Miles that like, this is all your fault. Basically, like you weren't supposed to be in Mumbattan. Like, you haven't stopped the spot. And he gets on to Gwen. Like, Gwen, you knew that he wasn't supposed to be here. Like, that stuff. And Peter B shows up and is like.
Hey, go easy on him. He had a bad teacher.
Bring him down, man.
He's like, chill, relax.
He's
like,
in a pink bathrobe.
He's
different
than
the
us.
bathrobe set, just his whole environment.
It reminded me of the dude from The Big Lebowski. That's what it was.
That's
like,
a good
that's
reference.
Literally what Peter B. Parker was.
Yes.
So he shows up. He's got a baby.
Tag.
Yes. Yes. He's
little itty bitty Mayday Parker.
He's got Mayday Parker. It's so great. Like. They're all happy to see each other, and then Miguel shifts the mood again and is like, tells Lila to bring up the showy thingy and stuff like that. Show him the thing. We get a really cool thing where it shows like he shows him the multiverse, which is a tree branch thing. Looks exactly like all the multiverse branches that we've seen in Multiverse Madness and Loki and that stuff. So I don't think that's even a coincidence at all.
Yeah, definitely intentional.
Then he shows him the spider connects, and Miles calls it the Spider-Verse, and then Miguel's like, that's a stupid name, and then Miguel gives it a something humanoid,
the arachnid polymer
humanoid something,
and
he's like,
which is also stupid.
Yeah. Anyway, he basically explains to him like how around the multiverse tree branch, all the Spider-Men are connected. This is where we get to learn about the canon events. He tells him about how Uncle Ben, how there's good things that happen to Spider-Man and how there's bad things that happen to Spider-Man. One bad thing that happens to Spider-Man is ASM, something, whatever he called, and it's the death of Captain Stacy. Captain Stacy dies saving a kid, and Spider-Man mourns to death and stuff like that.
And that was supposed to happen here.
And that was supposed to happen in Mumbattan, and Miles is like, nah, like, I didn't do that. The Spot did that. Like, there's no way. And Miguel tells him how, like, I know what it's like to want to, save everybody. Like, I found an Earth where my counterpart died, so I went there to live, and me being there destroyed the world, and, that's why anomalies are so
Peter
dangerous.
B.
And you
came
would
and saved me.
Yeah, and you would think that he would be so much less blamey having destroyed an entire universe himself.
Yeah,
That's true. Yeah,
You would think that.
You would think that.
Though what I do love about that scene is Peter B. does call him out of like, you're the only Spider-Man who isn't funny.
Yeah.
Spider-Man's supposed to be funny. He's supposed to have like, and you're just like,
funny. Like,
okay, yeah, you're right.
And he explains to him what happened to that Earth, and stuff like that. And he goes on the captain thing, and it leads Miles to finally get the realization of, wait, my dad's gonna be captain. And Miles starts to connect the dots a little bit. He's like, so I'm supposed to just let my dad die? And Miguel's like, Yes.
And as he's getting this
Basically, yeah.
realization, and as he's talking to Miguel, the Spider-Man are starting to
crazy.
walk
They're
in.
all
there's,
starting to surround
all
Miles.
these Spider-Men are starting to surround Miles, and Miles is like, yo, what the heck
Is this an
going on?
intervention?
Wait a minute.
And he's like, is this why you're here? It worked the last time. Let's run it back. Like, all this stuff. The energy's getting heightened and,
And then
stuff
Jess
like that.
tells Hobie, like, you're not helping
Yeah, and
when
Hobie's
he
like,
starts calming.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
He's like,
He's
oh,
like-
yeah. Hobie's like, here we go. He's like,
Yeah, let's go. He's like, let's go.
Because Hobie is totally against this.
Yeah.
Well, and that's what's so unique is like, even whenever because like Miles makes the point of saying he's like, he looks at Gwen, he's like, your dad's a captain, you're just gonna let him die? And he's like, what about, he looks at Peter B, he's like, what about Uncle Ben? If you knew that he could save him, would you? And Peter is like,
Most of us are here because of Uncle Ben.
Most of us are here because of Uncle Ben, and which is true, obviously.
And Miles is even like, we can say, like,
We can save everyone.
Yeah, like
We can do both.
Spider-Man
Like,
can
yeah.
do, and Peter B's like, not always.
Yeah, not always, and that sort of thing.
Well, and I forget his name, Indian Spider-Man.
I just call him Spider-Man India. I think it's like,
Pavarkar.
yeah, Pavarkar, yeah.
I like
is his
that.
name.
That's his
I like that.
His
that's
real
his
name
last name, but his first name is like, I think it's like, I don't know how you pronounce it. It's
Something
like
reminiscent
Privatar-
of Peter.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm not even gonna pronounce
No,
it.
me neither.
Whenever he is going and he's trying to save his girlfriend, who actually has a name reminiscent of
Gwen,
Mary Jane.
Or Mary Jane, yeah.
Whenever he's doing that, and then he sees the thing about to fall on the captain, he says, "I can do both," and
Yeah.
that is
Yeah.
we've heard different Spider-Men say that over time.
Yeah, Pavarkar, yeah. Yeah, you're right. Like he even says that he's like, I can do both, and
It's like
you see that.
these events are to teach Spider-Man that he can't always do both.
And it's a very interesting like dynamic. Obviously, the animosity, the energy is getting like heightened. They set a trap for Miles. He gets locked in an energy shield, but then Hobie, whispers in him, says like, use your palms, and he unleashes
Peter B's like,
the
come on,
energy.
kid. I told you to
Stop! Not call me a
that.
kid. Like he breaks open the shield, he runs. Then we get this huge, awesome sequence where he's leading all of these Spider-Men,
quit.
through a great. Yeah, by the way,
Yes,
I quit.
he
Like,
just takes it
Hobie
out. I
leaves.
quit.
Yeah.
This is my
He's
resignation.
chasing them and stuff like that. They're trying to catch Miles. He's swinging, dodging, doing all this really great stuff.
We get this cool moment
this-
with
yeah, I was just
Peter
about to
B
say
and,
that.
Yeah.
and Miles.
So like,
Yeah.
Peter B sneaks off, finds
Hold
him,
my
talks
baby.
to him, like, like, hold my
It'll
baby,
make it all
it'll make it
better.
better, and then he finally says what he really wants to say to him is like, I had her because of you, like,
Yes.
Yeah.
I had hoped that she would grow up to be like you.
and
Yes.
which there's so much weight in what he says because it's a total contradiction, or it's a total like difference of what Miguel is saying about Miles on the train as they're fighting. They're fighting on the train going up. It's epic. It's going off.
Well, and before we skip past that, like
Yeah.
whenever they're having this conversation, and Miles is starting
He's
to
starting to
like
come
understand.
around.
He's
Yeah.
starting to come around, yeah. And then Peter's like, it wasn't supposed to happen like this. Like when we talked about this, he's like, whoa,
Oh,
whoa,
not
whoa,
yet.
whoa.
No. First, his watch goes off. Remember,
his watch
whenever he's
goes
talking,
off, yeah.
and the conversation that they're separated. When
Yeah.
it's the two agreements,
Oh,
his
we
watch
got your
goes off.
location.
He's like, no,
you don't. You don't have my location.
And so
Yes.
he leaves, but on the train,
Yeah.
whenever Miguel's giving it to him, like, you're not supposed to be here, like you're not even supposed to be a Spider-Man, like you're not supposed to do all this stuff,
Calling him like the original anomaly.
like you're the original anomaly, all this stuff, and then like Peter B. Parker and Gwen are yelling at Miguel, like, Miguel, stop, like it wasn't supposed to be like this. We did, this is what we talked about.
Yep.
And another heartbreaking moment, like Miles has, he's like,
You talked
y'all
about this.
talked about this,
Like,
like.
This.
He's like, that's why y'all didn't come to see me.
Yes.
Like,
Just to give more credit though to Miles, right after when he talks to Peter B and he like rips open the cage and he starts
oh yeah,
going down
the
that.
halls,
Yeah.
The other Spider-Men were
They hit him.
hit him.
Like,
yeah.
and he was just he was
went straight
he
down
was
those
right
holes. Yeah.
he was threading the needle. He
was
was
threading-
going
yeah.
right through it, and you're like, that's like he is
That's Spider-Man.
That's Spider-Man. He is right on it. And
Yeah, and just the fact that like you have to think they're all equally Spider-Man, but he's in a league of his own.
yeah.
He is, and that's why he's. I don't want to say he's a threat, but that's what sets him different on a level of,
Yeah.
of
And-
hero. Honestly,
And look at how much he in like a year and a half where he was before
Yeah.
to where he is now.
yeah,
Yes, that
Yeah, so
because he had the mentorship.
Miguel's giving him the work, and Miguel's like,
And Just was like, "You're a terrible mentor."
yeah,
He's such a good mentor. He's just not
different.
He beat you.
Yeah.
That line had me cracking up.
Oh, yeah.
I was like, dude.
The line he's like, not to basically saying is like, not to pat myself on the back, but like, I had to be a pretty good mentor to teach him all that.
Like,
And Oscar Isaac's like, I've had just the perfect amount of you.
well, like, yeah, I mean, to get to that part, so like, they're on the train going up, and Miguel tells him like, you're not supposed to be this, you're not Spider-Man, and like, dopest line ever that Miles gives, he's like, everyone's been trying to tell me how my story is supposed to go, I'm gonna just do my own thing, and he's like, what do you mean by that? He's like, well, I did just lure. He's like, I may not be this, but I did just lure like all hundreds of spider people away from your fancy tower. And
He does have a plan.
Miguel looks back, and Peter's like, he did plan this out, like, and he blasts Miguel off, jumps off, turns invisible, and sneaks in to get inside the go home machine. He gets inside the go home machine. The DNA picks up Earth 42.
Earth 42.
Obviously, it's just really subtle. If you're watching it the first time around, you won't know that it says Earth 42 because you're not thinking anything. I think as the viewer,
Dude, I saw that the first time. I was like, wait a minute.
well, as the viewer, you're just invested in Miles, go home. Like that's like
Yeah.
like that's
get out of here!
Like you're
Especially
just
because
like,
like,
go home.
he's like,
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Miguel's like fighting to
So much
break
is
him
happening
up.
that you're not thinking about where he's going.
Yeah.
And
You're
because
just
it
like-
only makes sense that it's the go home machine.
Especially because like
You think he's going home.
Right, there was the chance that it could be shut down and
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
he may not make it.
And she could have shut it down.
Yeah,
But she let him go.
Yeah.
So
Which I
now
thought
you
was
have
really cool.
Hobby and her, they're accomplices.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like she and at the end of the movie, she's a part of the team too.
Yeah.
That Gwen
and
sets
then
up.
they send Gwen home.
Yeah, so Miles makes it to the go home machine. It sends him home. Miguel's pissed. He's getting mad. He starts yelling at Gwen like, "This is your fault." All this stuff, blah blah blah, and he basically says like, "You're going home." He sends Gwen home, and she's like, "I thought we were supposed to be the good guys."
That was a good line.
Well, another part of it too is after seeing the movie like a couple of times, I noticed that when Miguel says like "we are" and then turns around to the other Spider-Man and says we are, it's almost like he's trying to give reassurance to himself.
Yeah.
Like he's trying to validate the fact that like what we're doing, what I'm doing,
Yeah.
like I'm the good guy for this. Like this is what we're supposed to do.
Who's the villain now?
Well,
Flash?
that just goes into
Who's
like
the villain
the
now?
conversation of like what good and evil is.
Yeah.
Because villains think that they're the good guy from
Yeah.
their point of view.
I was gonna say Thanos. He thought he was a hero.
And the thing
Yes.
about it is like Miguel's not a villain.
He's not.
He's not.
No.
Like he's just he is hurting
Yeah.
because of a mistake that he made.
Yeah.
And so he's tied. He is a slave to that mistake. Like that mistake holds him. So Gwen goes home. Miles goes home. Miles is racing back to his apartment, back to his house, like trying to get home. He's swinging. He's going profusely, man.
We see Miguel, Jess, and Ben Riley
they
all
go, like,
to,
they are,
to
like-
Miles'
yeah.
universe, waiting for him.
They're waiting for Miles because they're like, we gotta stop him. Like he's gonna try and stop he's gonna try and stop the spot. So like Miles is racing. He finally gets home, gets into his bedroom, gets out of his suit, puts on his jacket. His mom opens the door. He's like, he hugs her. He's like, am I too late? Like, what's going on? Am I too late? What's happening? It's all this stuff. And she's like, what? Like, why are you so like scared and stuff? And we see Gwen outside. Like, she made it back to her house. We get this really sweet moment between her and her dad. Her dad finally comes around. Basically tells her that he can't arrest her because he quit. Like he's quitting the force.
Such a great moment.
Which
means he'll never be captain.
yes, and which is an interesting thing.
And when she realized that, I was like, oh.
Yeah.
Oh.
Then he hands her a box that was from Hobie Brown. It's a watch to go. So she travels to Miles Earth.
But when when the dad said he quit, that was the first moment that I thought, so things can be different for each Spider-Man. Like, they don't have to be this way. Like, they just can't be disrupted.
See, I thought that
like,
too.
You can't have another Spider-Man come in.
What is that going to mean? I was like, yeah, because I thought that too. I was like, so if he's not going to be captain, what does that mean?
There's just no captaincy
like,
for
is there going to be some like
anomaly?
Yeah, going on, or is it just going to continue like normal?
Which is interesting because if you remember her intro in the first movie, she says, "My best friend died," or she says, "I saved my dad. My best friend died."
Yep.
Yeah.
So because she saved her dad from getting shot.
Yep.
So
it was the opposite choice.
Was that an anomaly at that point? Was her dad a captain yet or not? We don't know.
I never thought about that.
That's a good point.
I never thought about that.
That was her backstory that was in the first one. I forgot about that.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah.
Anyway,
There's
so
a lot
her
to think about right there.
Yeah.
So her dad decides not to be captain. Gives her a watch to travel from Hobie Brown to go through the multiverse. She's obviously going after Miles to reconcile and to make sure he's all right, and probably to help him stop the Spot. Miles is in the bedroom with his mom. He's telling her how, like, I went to this. I saw all the, I beat all these people and all this stuff, and like they didn't accept me, and I just knew that like I could keep going if I just remembered you and Dad and stuff like that. And he's like, I'm finally ready to tell you what I need to tell you. And like his mom's like, what do you need to say? And he's like, he unzips his jacket and says, I'm Spider-Man. And
she starts laughing.
She starts laughing.
This is the moment we know something's up, because she's like, who's Spider-Man?
Who's Spider-Man? What?
And that's when you know, and there's a shift change in the music. Like there's an eeriness to it, and you're like, oh.
Yeah.
Well, and then you also simultaneously have Gwen Stacy now in the correct Miles universe. And she goes into his room.
And he's not there.
Not there.
Miles is standing in. And you're just like, wait. And then
they both have
happens, and you're just like, wait.
So it turns out that Miles is on Earth 42 because the Go Home machine reads the DNA that you are designated to come from, and it picked up the DNA of the spider and not Miles's normal DNA.
Because the spider changed his DNA.
Yes.
And so Miles is freaking out. He's like, trying to get his mom to understand, yes, I'm Spider-Man and all that stuff. And then through his front door walks in
Uncle Aaron.
Yep.
And Miles about has a heart attack almost. Like he's like, oh shoot. And Uncle Aaron's like, hey, did you take out your dreads like on purpose? On purpose? Like, yeah, like, that's that sort of thing. Gwen on Miles's actual Earth talks to his parents about how like, I don't know where he's at, but I'm gonna go find him. Like you just need to know that he absolutely loves you guys. Like
when you find him, tell him 5 months.
And tell him 5 months and that we love him. So she's on the journey to find Miles. Anyway, so Miles is walking with Uncle Aaron, and they're walking up to the roof, and Uncle Aaron mentioned something about like, the security windows this time, right? And Miles is like, yeah, I think that's right. And Miles glitches, to reinforce also that he's not on the same Earth. And they get to the rooftop. Miles realizes that he's on an Earth that has no Spider-Man. There's like havoc everywhere. He sees a mural of his dad.
Dad, which is the one thing he's trying to prevent right now.
And then probably one of like the coolest, eeriest scenes ever. Like the way the camera panned to show like Uncle Aaron like standing like next to him and like just kind of staring at him, but also like looking at his phone.
And then you can see him looking at his phone, and then you see him glance at Miles.
Yeah. And then all of a sudden, like Miles gets knocked out by a figure that just jumped at him.
Yep.
Miles wakes up. He's tied to a punching bag, much like he tied
up Peter B.
Peter B. He's trying to tell his Uncle Aaron, look, I'm not from this Earth. I'm Spider-Man, but on the Earth that I came from, like, my uncle died. He was the Prowler. Like, he turned out to be a good guy. You too can be a good guy. Uncle Aaron puts on the Prowler glove and turns on the music. Then he, like, punches the punching bag. Yes. And then he tells Miles that
he's not the Prowler.
And then, like, Miles is like,
what do you mean?
Camera, what do you mean? Then the camera changes to the view, an overhead shot where you see Miles tied but you see through the goggles of the Prowler mask,
and you see the glove.
He throws
the glove to him. Then he comes down. Prowler comes down, puts on the glove, And then the Prowler walks up to Miles and says, like, your dad is still alive? And Miles is like, what'd you say? He's like, your dad, he's still alive? And Miles says, yes. And then Miles says, who are you? And then the mask falls off.
Did you know that Miles is voiced by a different person?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's not Shamik Moore.
It's cool.
No, it's not.
It's cool. And he says, I'm Miles Morales, but you can call me the Prowler. And Miles is freaking out. The music's ramping up because no one knows what's going on. But then back on Peter B's Earth, like a portal opens up and Mayday's hanging upside down and she's pointing outside the window.
Yes.
You gotta go.
Like, and Gwen puts together a whole team and a band, and that is the whole plot of Across the Spider-Verse.
And we just end with
Time
like
to be a bad father, but
yeah.
Yeah.
and then we just end with like a to be continued.
Yep.
Which in our theater, you know, a bunch of people were all like, "That's it? That's the ending?"
and then
Well, and
Yes.
one thing I gotta say, between the two Miles, so you have our Miles, who is like the nerdy kid, like hood raised kid from the Bronx, like half black kid from the Bronx.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But then you have this other Miles, who's raised by just his mom, who is Puerto Rican.
Yeah, he's Puerto Rican. Yeah, because Miles,
And he has that, like, it's like a hood Puerto Rican accent. And I'm like, what?
Yeah.
Well, it's because he was, like, in that world, on Earth 42, he's obviously more raised by his mom.
Yeah,
and so,
that's the point.
Like, it reinforces that, you know,
Yeah.
Puerto Rican, you know, side and stuff like that, which I think is so
I
freaking
loved it.
legit.
It's just such an attention to detail
Oh yeah.
on so many levels. And they did that with so many different things throughout this movie. Like, I wasn't ready for it to end when it ended.
No. What's cool going off of that real quick. So whenever we see Miles, you know, tied up on the punching bag, you know, one half of his face is lit up in red, the other half of it's lit up in blue. Well, what meets in the middle is purple.
Yep.
And that's the Prowler.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then we see, you know, the Prowler with his glove right next to Miles' head.
I love this movie.
It's
Like,
so
oh,
good.
it's so good.
Predictions, really quick. Predictions.
Okay.
Well, one thing.
Let me go second at least.
Well, one thing I was going to say, kind of what we were talking about. So the canon events.
Okay.
So one prediction is, this is my prediction, I think the Spot is responsible for what happened to Spider-Man India's Earth. Because in the flashback that Miguel gives, that Earth stuff started glitching away. There was no black goo, no black spot. But on Spider-Man India's world, there was a black spot. And I think the stronger that the Spot gets like that, he's able to do that stuff. And I also think because, like, what Miguel did, in a sense, was he basically did, I think, what Barry was attempting to do in the CW Flash of living in that, on that Earth and that world, basically.
essentially in a flashpoint.
Yes, in a flashpoint. Whereas, like, because the Spot growing so strong, like, I mean, even when the explosion happened, it was from that. Like, the black goo is from that. I think the Spot is just, his powers are just eroding away at the world. And so I don't think Miles is the cause of what happened. I
So
think,
hearing that, like, I didn't notice those two different details. So hearing that, I still slightly disagree.
Yeah.
But I've adjusted my opinion to where it's maybe like a mix of both the things, because we still have the explanation from Miguel telling Miles, like, what you did caused this. But with the Spot being there and everything he did that made that whole collapse happen, now I think it's more of a mix of both, because they were like, you caused this, but we hopefully got there in time to prevent it.
yeah.
So
I agree. Yeah.
Yeah.
I like that. What's yours?
So, I think Miles' dad is gonna live, but while in living, I think Gwen's gonna die.
Gosh dang it! Yes.
Yeah.
And I think her final words that she is gonna be in every universe, Gwen Stacy falls for Spider-Man, and like I said, it never works out.
Man, that's
And
Could that be why?
That's a gut punch right there.
And I
just to
think,
about.
and I think as it's gonna be one of those moments where like it's gonna mimic, where
The captain.
Yeah, well, like Miles is holding her.
Oh yeah.
Just like she was holding him, and she's gonna say that to him, and she's
dramatic.
gonna save his
That's
save
dramatic.
his dad.
That's dramatic.
But she's not gonna make
That's
it.
dramatic.
Could you think that that's part of the reason why her dad quiz captain, but the universe didn't like collapse or anything, as well as like why they've put such a deep connection on Gwen's backstory and her connection with her dad, because she's gonna pass away.
Very possibly.
I could see it.
Now, a fun one that I think is going to happen is basically right at the end we saw Miles with his hand on the chain.
His electric power, like he's about to.
Oh,
So
yeah.
he's gonna go back to that line of don't watch the mouth, watch the hands.
Oh,
That's like, he's already doing it. Like that's literally what's happening right now. It's so poetic. It's so beautiful. Like
Now I don't know if like I said, I think Gwen's gonna go. I don't know if Peter B is. That's gonna be.
so. Another prediction is
I don't think
I don't
they'll
think
get
he
rid of
goes.
Peter B now that he's a parent.
I think that Miles does get help from 3 other Peter Parkers, though. That being Tom Holland, Tobey Maguire, and Andrew Garfield.
You think they'll
Yes,
they'll do that?
And another reason why is because I feel like everyone in the Spider Society is handpicked by Miguel because they won't ask questions or differ from any ideal that about protecting
which
the
is why
canon.
there's no other Miles in there.
Because there's no other, and that's why.
Okay, so kind of bringing that full circle.
Well, and that's why I think like there's no other Miles. If you also notice, there's no other Gwen.
Yeah.
And I think that's why he made a point to also talk about what Doctor Strange and Tom did in No Way Home, because that was the whole like point of what Tom was trying to do was like, bro, I want to have my life.
Yeah.
And I want people to, and in a sense, he did a version of like, you can have both. He got his life, but also, and he got to save his friends.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing that he
also-
ultimately, what are you going to say?
Well, I was gonna say he sent
wasn't-
the villains
yes,
home.
he wasn't
but
accepting their deaths.
He wasn't accepting their deaths.
Their fates, yeah.
Yep.
So he definitely would be one who's like,
We
don't have to go
Spider-Man
with
can
these
save
canon.
everything.
Yeah.
That
And-
would be. Could you imagine how epic
And
that would
Toby
be?
even said, "Hey, he in that
We save
he's
them
like,
all."
we save them all."
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
Especially when Tom was like, are we gonna
Even
save
him.
Norman? And it's like, we gotta save them all.
save them all. Like,
Man.
and so I think like that's a reason. Also, another reason was Toby in Spider-Man 1, straight up like he saved Mary Jane and those kids in the
Yep.
rail
Which
car.
is
Like,
reminiscent of I can do both.
you can do both, and like
That's the bit. Yeah.
like it. So I think that's another prediction. Do you have one, Andy?
Well, I don't know. Maybe. I mean, I guess one prediction that I kind of have, and this is based off of like things that we've heard that are like pretty much factual. I think that we know that in Beyond the Spider-Verse they are going to go to the actual live action Venom universe.
Again, yeah.
So
Really?
So yeah, that's been confirmed, and where I saw that was from a TikTok account by Soups.
Yeah.
I think is his name.
Yeah, they're gonna go back.
They're gonna go back to. We're gonna see the Venom universe in Beyond the Spider-Verse, and so I think this is kind of gonna be their way of bringing in the live action people. So I think this is how you bring in Toby, Andrew, Tom in a animated movie, or bring Miles from animation to live action to then meet our 3 Spider-Men and then that's where the story could, further take place.
Do you think that Marvel will allow that though?
Yes, because No Way Home happened.
It's true.
I think in the grand scheme of it all, like we know that we're getting another trilogy with Tom Holland. He's gonna do 3 more Spider-Man movies.
So he's taking a year off.
Yeah. Well, and also there's a writer's strike right now anyway, so it's kind of
It's a good year to take
Not
off.
by choice. Not by choice.
it's pleasant.
Kind of convenient to take a year off of acting and Beyond the Spider-Verse comes out in a year.
And it's animated.
See?
And so like
It could work.
I think it's a complete yes. Because at this point, I can see Beyond the Spider-Verse. Obviously, it's going to be the wrapping up of Miles' story, but I also kind of see it as a wrapping up point of like really bringing home all of the Spider-Man stuff. Like, I mean, all of it, And so I think that what this movie can do and what this movie has done is like, I think it's kind of showing you that you can have these properties and it work.
Yeah.
And if it doesn't work, don't try and wedge it in there. Like, because I feel like that's what these guys never did on Into the Spider-Verse or Across the Spider-Verse. They never wedged anything in there that didn't make sense or wasn't going to work. And if it wasn't going to work, they worked on it and, made it work or something like that. So this is our first movie review, which means this is our first ranking. So out of 5 Spider-Bots, what do you give this movie?
Give it a 5. Solid 5.
5 being the highest?
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, solid 5. No doubt.
Solid 5.
5 Spider-Bots all around the table. I also give it 5. This has been great. I think this is awesome.
Before we wrap up,
yeah, dude, yeah.
Can I ask you, brothers, give me your top 5 rankings of Spider-Man movies.
Spider-Man movies?
Oh.
Just of all of them?
Top
Yes.
5, just the top 5.
Top 5 because
top
we
5.
don't have enough time, but and I'll go first so you guys have a little time to think.
Bet.
So Cross the Spider-Verse, top dog for me. Then No Way Home,
Okay.
Into the Spider-Verse,
Nice.
Spider-Man 2, Sam Raimi.
Nice.
And then right under that, I'd have to say Far From Home.
Right on. Right on.
Okay.
Andrew?
I'm going to have to say Into the Spider-Verse
It's number 1?
is number...
No, I think that's awesome.
Yeah, okay, okay. I'm like, I'm just like
It did get
spitballing
higher
right now.
ratings.
Yeah.
Like,
So yeah, I will say Into the Spider-Verse, Across the Spider-Verse, No Way Home. Now it's getting hard. I'll say Amazing Spider-Man 1.
whoa.
I enjoyed Amazing Spider-Man 1. I'm sorry.
I enjoyed both of those movies. I just
Uh,
never considered valid, though.
Yeah. And then, even though it's at the bottom of my list, doesn't mean it's the bottom of the list. Is Spider-Man 2?
I was like, you're Spider-Man. Spider-Man 2 better be in the top 5.
He's like, it better be in there.
It better be in the top 5.
It's
Christian.
in there.
Well, yeah, Into the Spider-Verse is got to be is actually on my top.
Number 1?
Because I really enjoy that one.
Oh, yeah. It's work of art.
That's crazy.
It's a work of art.
Yeah.
Across the Spider-Verse,
Number 2, okay.
Spider-Man 2,
All right.
No Way Home,
Okay.
and then I'm going to put Spider-Man 1 because,
Yeah.
just the OG that brought it all together.
That is the truth.
All right. Mine is Spider-Man 2, number 1. Number 2, Into the Spider-Verse. Number 3, Across the Spider-Verse.
Okay.
Number 4, No Way Home. And number 5 is going to be the first Spider-Man, 2002 Spider-Man.
Man, and that's what I was really wondering was would the Spider-Verse movies make it into all of our top 5s? And they did.
Yeah, they did.
So
that's now,
sentiment.
in another,
go see this movie, people.
In another podcast, we'll give you our worst ones, and I think Spider-Man 3 is all at the bottom of the list for everybody.
I just gotta come out and say it was right. It almost made it.
No,
Almost made it. I love that movie. Yeah, it has its problems. So
whatever, man.
I think
Another time.
Amazing Spider-Man 2 might be.
That's true. That's true. They're
fighting.
That's true.
yeah.
Anyway, we are the Brothers of the Half Circle. Thanks for joining us for our first full movie review. Be on the lookout for more of these. We enjoy talking about the movies that we love. Hopefully we'll get to do one for The Flash. I really want to. So we thank you guys for joining us. You can watch this on our YouTube channel. You can also listen to this in podcast version on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. And we're also on Podbean as well. So just search Brothers of the Half Circle. I'm Sean with Zach, Andy, and Christian. Thanks again to Sharpen Iron Studios. We really do appreciate it. Remember, guys, if you are a content creator, reach out to them today. Don't wait. Rent this space, rent their equipment, and shoot your own video podcast just like we are doing so today. And we will see you guys in the coming weeks very soon.